Moin. I've seen a lot of hot takes as of recently about Ye's current predicament. It's been interesting, and so in today's episode we are going to go through all of those. Well, the main ones. I feel like something like this has become a bit necessary given the amount of obvious media spin and just nonsensical statements from a lot of people. I know I haven't uploaded in a while, but as I announced, had an exam to pass. This particular story became a bit too interesting to do the regular show, so I hope this entertains. My goal here is to let him mainly speak his own mind. I'll try to make it a bit more digestible because he can be a bit rambly. I'll present the main accusations, explain some of the references, and let you form your own opinion. Without further ado, take us away, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for joining Piers Morgan Uncensored. My first question for you, I guess, is an obvious one. What do you hope to achieve from our conversation?
That right there, being uncensored. In American media, it's very censored. It feels like an episode of Black Mirror a lot of times. So I've put myself across the line, the point of no return.
So, how did this all start? How did we get the ex-billionaire going around with his oldest sweatshirt trying to explain himself? It actually started with a different controversy, and I think Tucker makes a good effort explaining how it started.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Kanye West, now known as Ye, is one of the best-selling musical artists in the world. He has also in recent years become a celebrated and very highly paid fashion designer. And of course, for a decade, he was well known to TV audiences as an in-law of the Kardashian family. But it's West's latest incarnation as a kind of Christian evangelist that brought us to his office in Los Angeles today for the interview you're about to see. Days ago, during Fashion Week in Paris, West, accompanied by his friend Candace Owens, unveiled a T-shirt that read simply, "White Lives Matter." The response from the fashion industry and international media was instantaneous and uniform: shock, horror, rage.
I encourage you to go watch every single interview I'm going to be taking from here, as they are all pretty interesting in their own way. Links, of course, in the description. What started there as a fairly significant controversy, although a bit overblown, if you ask me, got turned into a monumental shit show. Kanye got suspended off Instagram for admittedly pretty creepy ex-behavior, but I can't really judge. I'm not in his shoes, I'm not in his family's shoes. They should deal with this in private. I have to agree with this. Then, in the middle of the night, he decided to mention they who shall not be blamed for anything ever, the J word. I'm just gonna say it because it's funny, and I'm under the platform, so I don't actually care that much. The Jews. His tweet, sent sleepy and in frustration, according to him, reads basically as follows.
It was like, I'm feeling a little sleepy. I'm gonna get me some rest, but when I wake up, I'm gonna go DEFCON 3 on the Jews. And then he just went to bed.
Well, that was not going to go over very well, as you can expect. But what does DEFCON 3 mean, actually? Media hysteria aside, DEFCON, written DEF rather than DEF, is military lingo for Defense Readiness Condition, with DEFCON 5 being the lowest level and 1 being, well, nuclear war. I'm not going to bore you with the details, obviously, not the subject, but it basically means being ready to fight. And to be fair to the critics, Kanye kind of didn't know what he was saying when he said that. He was just trying to be combative.
That actually, if you look at the definition of DEFCON, it means to get extra defense, which obviously I must have needed.
Yeah.
Kanye has described it himself as effectively raising his arm, preparing to punch a group of people, never actually going through with it, but sort of a reflexive defense mechanism on his part. You can see how that can be taken a bit wrong.
You know, it's like if you sit some kids in the principal's office and I punch somebody, right? I took my hand, right, as what it really means. Even Aryll Emanuel had to say, this is a pop icon, right? And I went and just punched an entire people at one time, or said that I was about to. I went like this, right? And I got blacked out, black mirrored, done, right? And it's like, what were you even gonna do? And why did you go like this? I went like this because I can't even, I would look insane to physically show you a metaphor, a physical representation of my last 20 years.
Clearly, the man may have been a billionaire with a B, but it certainly didn't stop him getting blackballed, getting screwed repeatedly. Some might call that good business, some might say that's what's wrong with business. Kanye himself doesn't wish for sympathy, at least that's what he says. He rather recognizes that he's too blessed with success and money to really expect it.
I'm not asking for anyone out here to empathize or sympathize for a dude worth $11 billion that can make money disappear. Appear out of thin air in 5 different industries. You know, I'm not asking for anybody to sympathize with someone who's married to Kim Kardashian, dated Irina Shayk, but like I feel like I'm just not going to get the sympathy vote in this situation, right? So
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Which is why I won't show any particular sympathy. His situation aside, you probably shouldn't either. He doesn't need it. He needs, in my opinion, for people to simply listen to him.
That right there, being uncensored.
He's not saying the craziest things I've ever heard, and I think his words are worth listening to. So, we will address a few things. First off, the Black Hebrew Israelite thing.
You ain't in mourning. What the hell you about? 6 million who the Holocaust.
Are you saying the Holocaust is a joke?
It's a joke. That's right. That's right.
Don't you dare.
Hell, Hitler.
Don't you
the
dare.
Holocaust is a damn joke. The Holocaust is a joke. Hitler, you crowd, white boy. Heil Hitler. You ain't been nothing. We've been through it. You ain't been through a damn thing. Black people have been through it. That's right. Hitler burnt your stinking behind because you said you were the black people. That's why he burnt you in ovens. He burnt you in those ovens because you wanted to be niggas. That's why. And he burnt you in those ovens and he burnt your granddaddy. And he burnt your granddaddy. Let's give Hitler a hand. That's right. Let's give Hitler a hand. All right. That he burnt your nasty behind. You was robbing the Germans. You was taking all the Germans' money. The Germans were suffering. You was oppressing the Germans.
Obviously, the main accusation is that he is a blatant anti-Semite. We'll see about that. The reproachment here, of course, to the black Hebrew Israelite, as you've seen from this prior clip, should, I think, say everything it needs to be said. It's not like that's all of them. Who are they? Well, it's a very long and interesting story, but it can be summarized as so. Black Hebrew Israelites are groups of African Americans who believe that they are the descendants of ancient Israelites. Their practices vary, but they all have some mishmash of Judeo-Christian traditions. As you can see from the previous clip, some of them are,
They're awful and anti-Semitic.
Outside the American context, it's not a group that makes a lot of sense, especially when you see their focus on race.
Don't hate white people, but God hates white people.
It may not be surprising then that some of Ye's statements may ring some alarm bells in some people. Some statements like this.
First of all, I am Jew also. The 12 lost tribes of Hebrew. Do the math. Do your research on it. We have got our culture ripped from us and then told we were just simply void of color, which is another definition for black.
Crucially, however, if we are being intellectually honest, we should make the point. Black Hebrew Israelites do not refer to themselves as Jews, rather as Hebrews or Israelites. You cannot expect them, given their usual stance on the Jews, to call themselves Jewish. They very clearly think that Jews stole their identity, stole their culture. The similarities may be uncanny, but you really just need to listen to him speak precisely.
First of all, I am Jew also.
His point, and you can say that's my interpretation, but I think he's being fairly straightforward, is that blacks, or at least people of a darker complexion, come from that area of the world. And in his opinion, they would be amongst the tribes that were subjects of Jesus, subjects of the King of the Jews. He's a Christian. He believes he's the blood of Christ, so he believes he's a Jew in the most literal sense. He's a Christian religiously because he actually believes in Jesus being God, unlike the Jews who still don't. But I don't care about the sectarian dispute. The logic is pretty obvious. It may sound odd to some people, but I've seen way weirder. He actually even says that he would prefer if his kids were raised in the old Jewish traditions, like Hanukkah, rather than the newer American fabrications of Kwanzaa.
I was biting my tongue on my political opinion because I thought it would be better for my children. And now you look up and my kids are going to a school that teaches black kids a complicated Kwanzaa. I prefer my kids knew Hanukkah. They don't teach even Christmas itself, Christ Mass.
Seems like somebody who is in the middle of a manic episode, and when you're manic, you tend to say a lot of things that you shouldn't say, and you tend to believe that they're the most brilliant things ever said. If he had an ounce of common sense, he would stop at a certain point. And bipolarism tends to drive you well past the point where common sense applies.
Really, one thing that has pushed me to make this video is the amount of time I've seen news articles in various media describing him as crazy, making no sense, it's just not true, and I think you can already see that. If you just listen to him, he has a point. He goes on rant if he doesn't just make a million references to pop culture or music or whatever. He actually has an incredible memory for these things.
Dire Straits, money for nothing and your chicks for free. Look
Great
at that.
band.
Yeah.
Hey, I wouldn't think you could reference Dire Straits. Look at you.
That video.
Yeah, I know. It's a great video.
That video. It's like
Your
it's like-
encyclopedic knowledge of music is great.
What Kanye does, however, is talk in very emotional ways. He doesn't hold his tongue. Even when he does, you can feel it. It's palpable. There's multiple examples of this, but the most famous one is, well, this one.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food, and you know it's been 5 days. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, this is Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Please call.
And that clip made internet and American history. Because even if you just went straight to Mr. Bush's mind and you could see in there that he does actually care about black people, that's not the point. At that point, there was a very prevailing feeling like, yeah, this guy doesn't care. And no matter the validity of the statement, it was honest. On one hand, this is someone who clearly doesn't have a big filter. On the other, he's able to channel that into quite sophisticated art. He, however, to his credit, recognizes that he's not the most educated person and seems to have quite a bit of admiration for his dad, who did not have all of the advantages, the opportunities that have opened to him as a musician.
I said I'm going DEFCON 3, right? And the actual, I spelled it wrong. I have a tendency to do that. I'm not quite John Legend, tight sweater level, spelling bee level.
My dad doesn't listen to rap music, and he's like super educated. We opened up a water distribution center in the Dominican Republic together. He's like the original Steve Jobs, but he was getting blocked every which way with all of his ideas, and he didn't have an endless bank account, and he didn't have Instagram. So all these ideas, he had to like take them back and compress them. Like, my dad is the most brilliant person that I know.
All in all, Kanye seems to be genuine to a fault. He refuses to censor his own feelings.
So just apologize so we can have Mel Gibson do some more films. It's exactly what Ari Emanuel was saying. No one is looking to change the problem that led so many people to that same level of frustration. And I just so happen to be the one that's not going to back up on it.
You can disagree with him, but I just don't think it's fair to call him crazy. Even more so because there doesn't seem to be much in the way of evidence. other than just people thinking his takes are off the rails.
They created, there was a Jewish trainer that brought me to the hospital and put in press that I went to the hospital. I know friends that off of exhaustion, a Jewish doctor, they diagnosed
Why do you keep saying
me
Jewish?
because they were, right? Diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and shot me with medication and put me on medication, then put it in the press. And every time, even if I wore the wrong color hat that a nigger is not supposed to wear, right? Then they immediately say he's off of his shit, he's off his meds, he's off of his rocker.
It may seem conspiratorial, but it is also a fact that that would be the one and only piece of evidence on him being crazy in some way. And it was pretty public at the time that he was going through a burnout and he had to get interned for exhaustion, not mental issue.
When I did the first Yeezy, because I did Kanye West 2 fashion shows before, and then I came back with Yeezy with Adidas. And this fashion show was so popular that Justin Bieber had to sit in the second row. And in the second fashion show, I put Kylie and Bella Hadid next to each other in the fashion show. You had Puff Daddy. At that time, Puff Daddy had beef with Drake. Drake still came to the show, and Jay-Z had to break up the fight backstage. The designers, you had Jerry Lorenzo, that's head of Fear God. You had Kim Schraub, head of Skims. You had Virgil Abloh, head of Louis Vuitton. You had Dimna, head of Balenciaga, all working for Ye, for the person that who put this together? Me, that's who, right? You had these people working for the king of New York, basically the boss, Ye. And guess who heard wind of this? One of the richest men in the world, Bernard Arnault, caught wind of this. What's going on? They're building up something and we need to stop it. So then he met with me and politely offered me backing for my clothing line. It would be Kanye West. They would get 49%, 51%. I would get 49%. They'd have control, and they were going to give me all of the support from Louis Vuitton. So I had to go to Adidas, and I told Adidas, hey, let's indemnify the apparel. So Adidas, you're not going to do the apparel anymore. Hey, we had a good time, but we're going to run off with Giselle now, right? Mm-hmm. So that's like you told your girl that, and she's like, oh no, we had the proudest moment of our career and stuff. So then he offers me the deal, and Alexander Arnault, who's gone on and rape and pillage from all of the talent that I had afterwards, I say, before I tell Adidas to indemnify the apparel, can I get a written contract from your dad, Bernard Arnault? And he says, my dad will never go back on his word. So you already know what this thing is going, right? Yeah. You can, spoiler alert, right? And then Alexander Arnault calls me and says, the deal got dropped at the board. I went back and told my high maintenance wife I was supposed to become this designer at Louis Vuitton, or the Louis Vuitton group was going to back the Kanye West line because that's how good I've done in fashion, babe. And now the deal is dropped. So then I did a second collection, and we didn't have any support to be able to build the collection. Then I went and found, and third collection, we did it. We took over MSG. Fourth collection went, and the show started an hour late. Then a week later, Kim got robbed. Then I told Scooter Braun, my manager at that time, I say, I'm looking, I need to go to Japan. I'm tired. He says, no, you need to make more money. I do 4 more shows on a second leg of the tour, and I suffer from exhaustion and go to the hospital, and then get diagnosed with a disorder. This is the first time I ever suffered from exhaustion. Amidst that, the same guy that dropped my deal, Bernard Arnault, goes and hires my best friend.
It was also around when he started getting political, so some way the details of the diagnosis got leaked to the media. Like how reckless and irresponsible of any medical staff. The fact that someone would take it upon themselves to publicly out you and shame you for something that may not even be true, because a first diagnosis doesn't really mean much. And all right, he sounds a bit crazy there, but that same person, that same coach, threatened him recently, directly in DMs, to put him back on meds and make him lose the ability to communicate with his family. That's some dog shit.
That diagnosed me of having a disorder that would have had me on medication right now. At a time like this, if I was on medication right now, then one pill could have been swapped out and it would be Michael Jackson and Prince all over again. But because I didn't take the misdiagnosis and I didn't take the medication, I'm able to speak to you guys clear of thought and transparently.
And what do people actually have to say that he's crazy? Like, beyond that one incident? Nothing. Just, as Shapiro says himself, speculation. And he thinks that's really good enough.
The Washington posted an entire piece speculating about how bipolarism played into the kind of stuff that Ye was saying. And it's hard for me to think that it's not playing into it.
Listen, okay, I don't think Kanye is crazy at all. I think he's possibly not well. Well, I've been to Hollywood. I don't want y'all to get mad at me. I'm just telling you, I've been to Hollywood. This was just what I saw. It's a lot of Jews. Like a lot. But that didn't mean anything. You know what I mean? There's a lot of black people in Ferguson, Missouri. Doesn't mean we run the place. I could see if you had some kind of issue, you know what I mean? You might go out to Hollywood and you might start connecting some kind of lines, and you could maybe adopt the delusion that the Jews run show business. It's not a crazy thing to think, but it's a crazy thing to say out loud in a climate like this.
What you have to do, you have to say it was wrong to say. There's no Jewish media. There's no Jewish...
There isn't?
What do you think about the comments made by Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, about Jewish people?
They're awful and anti-Semitic, and they seem to get worse over time.
This is probably where things get dicey for Ye. He refuses to let go of repeating the fact that there is an inordinate number of people of Jewish descent in positions of power within certain industries that he's traveled through. And ironically enough, that's something that Shapiro and the Jerusalem Post and Jewish people in general seem to agree with.
Is there a way to talk about a high representation of a group like Jewish people in a certain institution like the media or Hollywood and so on without it being a hateful conversation?
Sure, of course. A high percentage of higher than statistically represented in the population.
I didn't realize that I could be considered anti-Semitic till I read one of the definitions of anti-Semitism. Look at this. Such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media
economy, government, or other societal institutions. I didn't realize that it was anti-Semitic to say, hey, you know, I have a Jewish attorney, I have a Jewish record label, I have a Jewish contractor, I have a
Do you regret your statements? Or the statements you think you should be walking back? I mean, considering...
What do you mean walking back?
Well, you know, backing up off of them. I mean, the thing is, you've lost a lot of endorsements. People are dropping you. You're getting, you know, vilified.
Okay, so this right here is a chart of Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, ABC News, CBS News, Columbia Pictures, Warner Brothers, ESPN Sports, Fox News, Washington Post, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MTV Music Television, Nickelodeon, USA Today, New York Post, Lucas Arts, MSNBC, DreamWorks Animation. Now the thing is, I skipped over maybe about 5 of them because it was just unclear on this list. The red are the executives that are Jewish at these companies.
Percentage of Hollywood agents are probably Jewish. A higher percentage of lawyers generally are probably Jewish. A high percentage of accountants are probably Jewish. Also, a higher percentage of engineers are probably Asian. Like, the statistical truths are statistical truths. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about the nature of the people who are being talked about. There are a myriad of reasons why people might be disproportionately in one arena or another, ranging from the cultural to sometimes the genetic. I mean, there are certain areas of the world where people are better long-distance runners because of their genetic adaptations in those particular areas of the world. That's not racist. That's just fact.
Will Shapiro get cancelled for these statements? No. But it has become kind of a N-word situation where one group can say it and everybody else should just shut the hell up, I guess. It's not like I can't understand it, though. There is a very specific brand of defamation against Jews.
Jews running all of the media, Jews being in charge of the financial sector, Jewish people. I mean, there's no, I mean, I called it on my show, there's Sherman Nazism, and it is. I mean, it's like right from Protocols of the Elders of Zion type stuff.
Long story short, it's an old Russian anti-Jew propaganda book. It mostly plagiarized another book, actually, about Machiavelli and other French political figures. Of course, I think with just the name Machiavelli, you can imagine the kind of amoral ways of obtaining power that we'd be talking about. So, applying that to one group of people might do some damage to their reputation. It's, however, not exactly unique to Jewish people. I will leave a video from kind of my mentor in terms of intellectual pursuits, Thomas Sowell, on the plight of the middleman.
It's a fascinating story because among the middleman minorities, of which the Jews are the most prominent, the hostility to these people in countries around the world is out of all proportion to that, to any other kind of group I can think of. They are people who have succeeded an awful lot in the midst of other people who have not. Years ago, one official of one of the Jewish organizations in New York asked me, well, what can Jews themselves do in order to minimize the hostility they face? And I gave him a one-word answer: fail. Because as long as you succeed, you're going to be hated.
It's not like you need a conspiracy, for example, for Black Americans to avoid the KKK. If you see someone using the N-word and they are not a black person, I can understand why you might not want to associate. Of course, everything depends on context, and you can't say for sure that just because someone used a word they are a racist. You still can't blame black people for holding their breath a little and being cautious. Where the Jews lose me is when they ask us to pretend that they are the one group that doesn't act like that. If you are in an industry that is dominated by them, you can expect that kind of response. I don't think Kanye really got something that wasn't expected. I think the frustration here is with them kind of pretending that that's not the case.
Calling the industry out and saying like, hey, it just so happens that there's been times where I had my lawyer was Jewish, my regulator was Jewish, but like 8 people that basically would collude and talk without me were in groups saying, okay, this is what the tour is going to be. This is his next house. And they were making all these decisions and they're making all this money. And at the end, I was like, I ended my tour and I don't have the money. And it just so happens that that's the case, that what they were. But what I'm saying is, if everyone can say, hey, you can't point out this fact, or we're going to say you're anti-Semitic and we're going to call you Hitler, I feel that there has to be at least 1% of safeguarding the ability to screw the artist based on saying it's anti-Semitic by pointing out that they just so happen to all be Jewish. And I don't think that's anti-Semitism.
And even beyond that, not only do they pretend that that's not a thing.
If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and you should never speak about it.
And I think the right thing is to not say that there's Jewish control of the media. And
that's incorrect, though. That's a fucking lie. There is. And they did come and bully me. It proved the point.
Even if you do speak to the individuals, it doesn't matter. You will still get called the same thing. I mean, let's take Kanye's example. You can say he doesn't literally name them, but he's not talking about random Jews down the street. He's never said all Jews are terrible. He's pointed out very specific individuals. That he's famous enough that anybody can track them down and figure out who they are. The example that Shapiro uses for the covert Nazism about Jews having weird sexual fetishes.
They started off with the bizarre DEFCON 3 tweet, and then they went into even more stereotypical garbage about Jews and Jews being sexual manipulators. I think that was the Pete Davidson, Kim Kardashian stuff.
That one is literally just fictional. It's never said anywhere by Ye. And okay, he references someone doing something weird.
I get a text from a number I don't know, and it's Pete Davidson bragging about being in bed with my wife.
But again, and this one is literally named. It's one individual. I don't take Kanye's allegations on this guy at face value because of the circumstances. But how can you go from that one accusation to he believes all Jews do weird sexual stuff? And he's taken to this idea of talking about specific people quite with joy. He's doing his best to spread love.
You know why I apologize, why I say I'm sorry to the Jewish people that I hurt? It's not about, like I said, I'm not going to hold this apology hostage, right? So I'm going to go specific to a person.
You have to realize that even after the White Lives Matter shirt controversy, he wasn't canceled so hard that he wasn't a billionaire anymore. Funny that. Somehow, some way, as soon as he said anything about anybody being Jewish, even the right-wing people in the entertainment industry dropped him like a hot potato. Suddenly, people like Shapiro here forbid him from ever appearing on the Daily Wire with his friend Candace Owens, who works there, who was with him doing the White Lives Matter thing.
They told Candace Owens I couldn't be on the Daily Wire. Like, you can't even explain yourself. not only can you not explain yourself, we don't care how you got to that point. You need to apologize, and you can't explain, and that's the end of the story. So just apologize so we can have Mel Gibson do some more films.
Now she hasn't dropped him. I may not like Candace that much, but at least she seems to be a reliable friend.
Because we now have a blatant act of pedophilia that has taken place. And you're going to see that a lot of celebrities who like to use their platforms to condemn everything that sounds like hate speech, right, are going to be quiet. So let me give you an update in case you are not aware of what has happened with Balenciaga. Now, you may know Balenciaga. It's a huge brand. Kim Kardashian is one of the faces of it. In fact, if you go to her profile right now, she has dripped herself in their new campaign. Balenciaga and Adidas are teaming up. They want nothing to do with Ye. Neither does she. Perfect brands for all of them to unite and to sell some products.
Now, that shit show aside, I think the most obvious point here is Kanye is Lex's friend. Of course, him being Jewish, this entire story mattered to him tremendously, personally, and he showed quite admirable combativeness with someone he calls a legend.
I would say you and I are equal in a certain deep sense.
Kanye is famous for saying that people who aren't as rich as him basically aren't on his level. And he's taken his loss of wealth with great stride, actually, admitting he was being egotistical and calling it an act of God to punish him for that sin.
And I feel like this is God humbling me right now because there's two things that are happening. A lot of times when I would say, oh, I'm the richest black man, it would be a defense that I would use for the mental health conversation. To say, oh, you guys say I'm crazy, but look at this, I made money. And but that is not godlike to be showing off. So if it's not godlike, then God will take that because it's all the church's money, right?
And so here we are. Ye is $1 billion less wealthy, having to wrestle with the world and public opinion. But even through all that, he is still Lex's friend. And they ended the conversation quite amicably, with Ye doing what a lot of people, for some reason, are pretending that he hasn't done, which is apologize over and over again.
That night, I was so frustrated after 20 years that I had to call it out in one tweet that now, even if I say, hey, okay, I was frustrated for these reasons, now it's not good enough. You've literally tried to make me re-apologize 10 times in this meeting, re-say this, re-say that, but it doesn't change the fact that my people are sick, and I'm the only person in my position that will say that my people are sick. Today, not 30 years ago, not 60 years, my people are sick today. 50% of my people's deaths are abortion today. My people don't have the opportunities today. For God, what I will do is start off as a samurai and say, I'm sorry for hurting you. As a Jewish person, I'm sorry for the way that made you feel. And I'm sorry for the entire population of a race that I feel is actually my brothers, because I classify and feel that I'm also connected with Christ in that way, that my people came from Africa in that way. And I can't say it's this exact teaching or that exact teaching, but I feel that there's an important, the sons of Abraham, however we want to word it, right? For us to come together and bring our different talents together to serve God collectively. And he, as much of an alien as I am, he did not call for me to alienate. So how do I simplify and say, hey, to you as a visionary, as an engineer, as a person that's given me a platform, that as my brother, I want to apologize to you for how that made you feel, and to the rest of the people that carry specifically that pain, not the pain that I talk about. That doesn't seem to be as much of a pain for people when I talk about the abortion clinics and stuff. That's it's like that's an argued pain even in my own community. Like not everyone thinks that's a pain. But for the Jewish community, it's collectively this was a pain. And I've gone so far just psychologically on this journey since that statement had happened, where I didn't want to like give up the candy in my pocket. I didn't want to say, hey, I stuck my hand in the candy jar. I wanted to defend my freedom of speech. I wanted this. But even with freedom of speech, pain is pain. Causing people to hurt is not helping. Causing people to hurt is not helping. So that means I have to take a more sophisticated approach to engineering this problem. This problem is an opportunity. And yes, that what could some people may deem as a mistake. Would it be more genuine if I called it a mistake? I think I would be hypocritical by calling it a mistake with the ending of that, the idea I'm going to say out loud. So I don't try to be a hypocrite on purpose. But I will call it a mistake to add a genuine, to be genuine about the feeling. With that mistake, with me as a human being, not to justify, but I have to state that God makes no mistakes, because if I hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't be in front of you today. And that's not to justify this sleepy text.
But I can tell you're a man that has love in his heart, and I hear that. I hear it through the words explicitly and implicitly. And I think if we're to engineer a better future, the way to do that is with love. So as one human to another, I love you, brother. Thank you for talking today. This is great.
It shouldn't be this scary to talk about anything. It's making my job incredibly difficult. To be honest with you, I'm getting sick of talking to a crowd like this. I love you to death, and I thank you for your support. And I hope they don't take anything away from me. Whoever they are.
But if we knew we were a culture and knew we were a people, the way the Jewish people know, then we wouldn't abort ourselves. We wouldn't shoot each other dead in the streets and then rap about it. We wouldn't brag about, having sex with each other's wives. We would keep our families together and we would do business together. My people are sick. If I load up Apple Music right now, and I play the top songs in the rap chart, I would tell you my people are sick. So I have to have a responsibility, obviously to all people, but specifically to my tribe, because tribes move. Tribalism is real with Black people. To separate the brightest from the tribe, or to separate the leaders, it is factual that the CIA removed the leaders from the Black community, put crack in the communities, put guns in the communities, and locked up all the leaders and called them gang leaders, right? Locked up all the leaders, locked up all the fathers. Now, 72% of Black mothers are raising children by themselves. Now, our culture in poor communities is, oh, everybody's got Draco on them. Everybody's got a gun on them. Oh, if you run up on me on the gas station, I'm going to kill you. Hey, you ain't got to talk to me like a man if I haven't killed at least 5 people. BLM took a Black person, showed his death on camera, because, okay, there are examples of us being killed and being killed on camera. But if it was spread on camera, it was done on purpose by the media, because 14, 20 kids get killed in Chicago every week, and it's not spread that much. They, like you said, singled out a person, directed everything on that person, right, as the martyr, and raised the people that hadn't had any. We didn't have our 40 acres and a mule. We didn't have, like a lot of things, right? Like that Black people have not ever been given. So once we're given just a little bit, like your life matters, right? Then we literally like, oh, okay, now we're being heard, right? But actually the death toll is up. The city where this happened is completely been turned to a war zone.
These problems in the Black American community are very much long-running and self-reinforced, as he says, through media. Not entirely by coincidence either, but the fact is, be it the abortion issue that he has, or the general gangster issue, those are cultural issues that the Black community has to sort themselves.
African Americans are not choosing to get the abortion. I mean, it's a choice. It's an individual choice.
But we're being influenced to.
Well, then speak to the community and help. I mean, I don't know what the engineering solutions there are. It could be you're doing that in part by speaking to the value and the power of family.
And to his credit, once again, Kanye has been doing something about it. Of course, he's been talking, but not just.
We're building schools. We're building up choirs. We're building up our own leagues, basketball teams, our own factories. We started the first sportswear factory in America since World War II. Was actually this factory I put in Cody. I was building shelters. I bought land in Calabasas, and I bought 2 ranches in Wyoming. 300 acres in Calabasas, 12,000 acres in total in Wyoming. And I started building ideas for shelters. And God set it on my heart to make monasteries, which would be modern day facilities that don't turn people down, that have farms, that have shelter, clothing, but first of all, water, first of all, knowledge, because knowledge is the most important resource.
When it comes to the music industry and entertainment kind of in general, he has some ideas about how to make it better on the business side, bring some more transparency, things like that.
This is something I propose. I would look at the top 10 execs in 3 fields, in sports, film, and music. And I would look at the top 10 clients, participant, talent. I would look at the top talent in each of those fields, the top 10 of them. And some of them are going to be Tom Brady. Some of them are going to be Taylor Swift. Some of them, they're not all going to be black, right? Some of them will be Adele, right? And we'll look at all their contracts transparently, and we'll compare the notes and re-engineer like it's a new constitution. Yeah. Because when I told my dad when I was 19 that I was going to get into the music industry, he begged me not to. He said, I heard it's treacherous. Now I'm in a position where I've been through it. I saw it. I went out, made some money somewhere else. I saw my name get smeared. I saw my family get destroyed. I saw my reputation get destroyed. And I'm back here to have this I'm back here as a being with engineering opportunity.
I must say, he sounds a bit naive there. But this is a man with a vision. He's running for president again, and he intends on making this a reality. I don't know if he can, but it sounds worth a try. It's not like he's unaware of just how treacherous this industry can be.
But you know what happens is we can kill 5 people, we could kill 10 people and still be in the media as long as we play by the rules, right? Because what will happen is any of these guys that have talked about killing people and different things, unless Trump had pardoned them, right? But let's say, even if Trump had pardoned them, they could still go to someone like a Lil Boozy or Meek Mills or Puff Daddy, anybody, and say, hey, we need you to talk shit about Ye right now. And also, you're not allowed, if you do want to vote for Trump or vote outside of what this arrangement is, then we're going to put you in jail. We're not going to bring you down. We have this on you. You get what I'm saying? If I had ever killed someone, if I wasn't the bitch with the pink polo on, I wouldn't be able to be the vocal man that I am today. You understand what I'm saying? This is the reason why I'm happy that my gangster disciple brothers kept me from the initiations, which made me feel like a pussy my whole life, right? But now I am someone who legally can say this. Other people in my position, they legally cannot speak. They legally cannot speak, or they will go to prison. I am in a bit of a glass prison because I don't have say-so of where my children go to school. But I'm in a freedom place where I can have this conversation with you right now.
Just so you don't think this is a fantasy, here is an industry exec.
Guys, in light of seeing that a rapper from Migos died, I just wanted to go ahead and make a video about something I have a unique experience in. So I directed a bunch of rappers, people like Gucci Mane, Snoop Dogg, Lil Yachty, the list goes on and on and on, okay? I learned a lot of things, and I have left the industry largely over my political beliefs, but there is something I want to impart to people to hopefully, make some sort of change happen. So I have a challenge to rappers, and I know some of you still follow me. So here's the truth. The truth is this. A bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives. The record executives that push for them to continue to make songs and create a culture that is obsessed with death, drugs, and sex. Period. The industry is obsessed with it, but those record executives, they're not dying because they don't push this culture on their own people, but they're encouraging you to push it on yours, and they're paying you handsomely to do it. The reality is, I know a lot of you. A lot of you are good people. You're family guys. You're not the image that you put out there to the world. Why? Why don't you be the example? Stand up. I challenge you. Be the example. Make music about the culture you want to see. Don't just get online today and talk about how, whenever a rapper makes it, his own people take him down. Don't just make those videos. Don't be sad. Don't rest in peace. None of that stuff. Be the change you want to see. Inspire it in your community. Reach out to other rappers and say, we have to stop. We're being used. You've been used for a long time. They create this paradigm to make you believe that you're so important and your celebrity status is worth so much, but in truth, you're a pawn in their game and you always have been. The government has wanted to hold down communities of people in different ways through different methods for a very long time. Their method in the black community has been to use entertainment to create a culture obsessed with death, drugs, sex, and money, so that they could create a false paradigm of what happiness and what success really was. And in doing so, they created a world that also made people more dependent on government, and as a result, gave themselves more power. The record executives that push you to do this, to go and continue to profit off the backs of your work, they're in cahoots with the elite. They're in cahoots with the government. They want you to think you're important, but in truth, you're just doing their dirty work for them, so stop. They've empowered you in ways that are real. You have an audience, you have platforms, you have the ability to make change. So go against the grain together. They're more afraid of you all together standing up and creating a new culture that's built around family, faith, freedom, doing the right thing, valuing life, than they are of anything else. So I challenge you. Use your power to do the right things. If you continue to do the same thing you've done, more rappers like this are going to die. How many have to die before you change the culture? And let me tell you something else. There's a reason the record labels pay us more to do rap videos. They don't tell you that, do they? Do they tell you that they pay us more to do your videos? Because they do. They do it because they know it's more dangerous. They do it because they know it's more difficult. And they do it because, frankly, there's a lot of money laundering involved. Those labels wash a bunch of money through. We don't do it, but we know the labels are doing it 100%. Okay, they're then taking the money off the top end, and you see on your royalty check, oh, they spent $150,000 on this video. Did they? Because we didn't see $150,000. Okay, so where did the money go? And to who? Their friend's company? A lot of times that's the case. Same thing with insurance companies. They charge us more to insure your videos. And it's because they know the culture that's been created. They know that the only possibility of a music video being shot up is on a rap video. And that's the truth. So change the culture. You have the power. Your people deserve it.
I will now leave you with two things. First off, what does Kanye want his legacy to be?
To be forgotten.
You think you'll be forgotten?
Because the memory, there's ego in memory, in the memories. Who designed the sidewalk? Who designed the water fountain? Who designed the stop sign? Who designed the stoplight? These things are so ubiquitous that the person that designed them is forgotten.
Second off, my favorite part of this entire interview being the incredible bromance between Kanye and Lex. I hope they remain friends forever. So as always, thank you for watching, and please do enjoy the show.
You actually have a particular thing for me as I eject from media. Because even also, I'm really big at burning the phoenix too. All as an engineer that your cells completely regenerate every 7 years. I think I rush the process a little bit. So I run around looking like a burn victim sometimes.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, anyone I am close with, I work with, there has to be trust. There has to be love. And I think you've been burned quite a bit in your life.
Sometimes I did it myself. I put my hand on the stove. It's the other thing about this. It's like people, just in general, they love me so much. I'm actually a hard guy to really hate for a long period of time, just because of my huge cock. And
that's what I noticed. I didn't understand why you showed it to me when we first met.
The worst part is when one person's in love and the other person's in like.
That's us right now.
Well, who's in like?
No, because you said you love Bill Maher and you like me.
And
I love you, so that was.
No, I actually love you both.
All right. I hope I'm somebody you can trust.
I don't fucking trust you. Okay, my cock is not 14 inches. I lied, okay? It's only 13.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
So the...
Wow, he's dropping so many facts today. But I gotta tell you, I have to be honest. This is silly because you don't know me. But it hurt when you said you don't trust me. You kind of lost me. I don't think anyone's ever said that to me. I don't know, man. Fuck that. I don't care about views or clickbait or any of that bullshit. I just thought you were one of the greatest artists ever. It'd be cool to talk to you. And I feel like you got pain you're working through. I never had anyone say that to me. Maybe I'm just being a mess about it, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think I would trust anybody at this point in my life?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I hear you. And it's also kind of good to see how much strength you got. You're not broken by any of this. You're under a lot of attack by a lot of people. You have a vision, and you're trying to feel your way through it. And you might get destroyed for it. That's the human, that's the risk you take.
It's a wonderful life, though. It's like I could be turning my thing from a potential world vision to a code, or I could be opening up conversations with new friends that I may trust someday.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, as one human to another, I love you, brother. Thank you for talking today. This is great.
I like you too.
Son of a bitch.
Kanye West first performance on TV, I think, was on that show.
Yeah.
And you.
And as a matter of fact, Kanye on the show. Okay, first of all, you know Kanye.
Yeah.
You could tell that he was going to be a star. I didn't know him till he did the show. And then my friend was telling me, you got to book this guy, Kanye. I said, okay, I booked the guy. And it was like Muhammad Ali in Olympic Village. Like, he just knew he was going to get the gold. And it was the day that Jay-Z's Black album came out. And it was me and Common and Kweli and Kanye, this guy that nobody knew. And, you know, the record starts and Jay-Z says on one record, Kanye, you's a genius. You did it again. And Kanye stood up. First time he spoke all day, he goes, stop the record. And rewind that. You're like, what? We're like, who is this guy? We're all like, what?
No one knows who this guy. Like, what?
I didn't know who he was. Everyone else was like, they're laughing, like, you know, they know. I didn't know. and then, you know, Jay-Z's rhyming, and he goes, if skills so, truth be told, I'd probably be lyrically Talib Kweli. And Kweli was like, man. He said, truthfully, I wanted to rhyme like Common Sense, but I sold 5 mil. I ain't been rhyming like Common Sense. And Common's like, hey. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, but it's getting weird.
And then afterwards, we go to the edit, and this is when everyone knew Kanye was going to be a star. And we were watching sketches. We were like, yeah, we could watch some sketches. No one's ever seen these before. We show him like the Rick James sketch and all these great sketches. And in the middle of it, Kanye's phone rings, and he's like, hello? He goes, no, I can't. No, because I'm at the edit for the Dave Chappelle show, watching sketches that no one's seen before. And then he goes like this, because my life is dope, and I do dope, and he hung up the phone.